Hello and welcome to Small Business 21st Century and today's segment of Build Your Difference. I'm your host, Pierre Walters, and since we've started broadcasting this segment, we've received numerous inquiries related to my perspective on different aspects of entrepreneurship. Recently, a viewer sent me a list of several very specific questions related to the journey, and I thought I would make for a great episode if I shared it with you today, right here on the air. So without any further ado, I'm just going to dive right into the first question. What are some of your daily habits? Well, that is a very, very good question. And I would say when it comes to entrepreneurship, something that I try to do every day is I try to practice mindfulness. I try to practice being present. That means checking in on, as many of the projects as I possibly can. And that also means being mindful of the fact that, I need to keep my head focused on the long-term vision and not necessarily in a lot of the smaller decisions or sort of micro decisions that might be happening on a day-to-day basis. So it can be so easy to wake up in the morning and just start immediately obsessing and perhaps even having some anxiety over a lot of the smaller decisions that make up a larger task or a larger project that we might be working on over at my business. But what I try to do is instead, I try to recognize that my team members will reach out to me if there's any issues, and what I need to do is try to remain focused on the big picture and on the direction that we're moving in. And sometimes I can honestly say that's easier said than done, especially if you're like me and maybe get anxious about things. I definitely fall into that trap more often than I really should. But something I try to practice every day is being present, being mindful, and I'm gonna throw this in there. I try to take time to decompress. Maybe, that means I'll work for an hour or two and then I'll take a break. And in that break, it might be 15, 20, maybe even 30 minutes of just, maybe catching a quick power nap or just, watching something funny on YouTube or reading an article, just something that kind of allows my mind to kind of relax from whatever the intense focus was that I was working on prior. And I try to do that before diving into the next task. Usually that's a practice that I'll do in between meetings or something. But I would say that I think is something that's pretty important. The next question, and I really like this question, is what do you enjoy most about being an entrepreneur? Wow, I mean, that is really a tough one because being an entrepreneur encompasses so many different facets and challenges and sort of parts of yourself. But I would say for me, what I enjoy the most is the opportunity to find new ways to problem solve, which in turn means I'm finding new problems to solve. And it's engaging, and I find that I really enjoy that. It's not always something that is enjoyable, especially if it's a problem that sort of at first glance seems insurmountable. But after years of doing this and after diligently sort of finding myself in situations where there are problems that need to be solved and we end up solving these problems, I've learned to sort of not only trust myself, but trust the people that are around me, and also to trust the process of being an entrepreneur and solving problems. Now, I don't get everything right all the time, and sometimes I make some pretty boneheaded mistakes, but I think that at the end of the day, it's incredibly fulfilling. And so that leads me to our third question. What do you find most challenging about being an entrepreneur? Wow. For me, the most challenging thing is trying to keep up with everything. There's so many different things that require your attention, no matter what size business you're running. Even if you're just starting a business and it's just you and a simple service that you're offering, there's so many other sort of players involved in the entrepreneurial sphere of influence, so to speak. Okay, you've got taxes to deal with, there's finances to deal with, there's administration work, whether that's paperwork or dealing with your forms, customer service, the technical side of things, making sure that technical things are working the way that they should, making sure that all of the different expectations that you have set out of yourself and that your customers have of you are all being fulfilled and working as they should. That is just incredibly challenging. And I can honestly say it's not something I always really get right, because I'm not always in a position where I'm totally paying attention to all of these different facets all the time. But in order to overcome that, I've really tried my hardest to bring in team members who could watch those blind spots for me. For example, when it comes to the finances or when it comes to accounting, that's not a strong suit of mine. So bringing in someone who can pay attention to that and offer me quality insight on what's happening in this area can really help me from making boneheaded decisions if I'm being counseled appropriately. And so I would say that the challenge is definitely trying to do everything all at once, and overcoming that challenge means getting comfortable with the fact that you don't have to do everything all at once, and you can bring in different team members to help you with these different areas. What have been your most significant failures, and what did you learn from them? That is a real tough question, because we all have failures. We all have successes, and then there's a portion of those successes that it took many failures in order to achieve. And I don't know that I'm necessarily someone that keeps track of all of my failures. So saying what my most significant failure has been is difficult. But I'm going to take a stab at it, and I'll say one failure that I kind of comes up to mind is navigating. Now at this point we're kind of in a post-pandemic world, but I think when we were in the midst of the pandemic, a challenge that I had, and I would say a failure that I had, was effectively navigating that space. We didn't know how the world was going to change, and in some ways, I really wasn't prepared, and that was a really scary time. And I think what I learned from that entire process was that the unpredictable can happen, and the things that you don't even think are possible can actually happen. And so what are you doing to prepare for these eventualities or for these sort of contingencies? Maybe you can't plan for everything, but are you running the kind of business, or are you organizing and structuring your entrepreneurial efforts in such a way where you can easily or fluidly maneuver, maneuver as things change and as unexpected elements come into your path? That's something that I would say that I learned, and I'm really grateful for it. After having gone through that process, there's a lot of businesses that didn't make it through the pandemic, and I'm just grateful that our business was maneuverable enough that we could kind of work our way through that process and come out on the other end. What do you wish you could have done differently? When I left high school and went to college, I initially went to an acting conservatory, and I spent, let me tell you, the first several months of schooling, of college at this acting conservatory, really struggling. I mean, really, really struggling, because I knew that I enjoyed acting, but it didn't feel to me like that was the right total path for me, but I didn't know what else I would do. So I tried to stick it through, and I tried to make it, make the best of that situation of being in acting school and being surrounded by incredibly wise and talented teachers and other students, and really trying to apply myself. And if I could do things a little bit differently, what I would have done is I would have told myself, Pierre, if you're not feeling that this is the right path, why don't you take some time? Maybe take a couple of months off, or maybe take a year off. I mean, I know that's something that people do now, or young people do now, is they'll take a year off of college or a year before going into college to really kind of think about what it is that they want to do with their lives, and however you want to go about doing it. I wish that I gave myself a little bit of time, rather than just sort of moving straight from high school straight into college and sort of getting to a burnout place a lot faster than I think I would have if I had taken a little bit of time to just sort of get a lay of the land. Maybe travel, maybe go do a mission trip with a church or something, or experience a different culture, just something to kind of give me a sense of perspective. And I didn't take enough of those opportunities before moving into college. So that's what I would do differently. Okay, and lastly, this is our last question before we go to break. What makes an entrepreneur successful? My God, what a question. I think that the most important quality of any person in leadership, or any person who's running a business or a small business or an entrepreneur, is the ability to be diligent. Diligent. Oftentimes you might hear the phrase due diligence. And really that means, are you taking the time to cross those T's and dot those I's? Are you taking the time to do the appropriate amount of research before making a decision? Are you being diligent? Are you being diligent with setting expectations and then delivering on those expectations? These are all important aspects and qualities of diligence. And I think that if you can cultivate diligence in your life, that's going to be the most important quality of achieving success in any field. So, I really appreciate these questions, and I must say, it's time for us to take a quick break. But when we come back, we're going to return with more great questions and incredible answers, and I'm going to have so much more to share with you after these important messages. Stay with us.
I'm a wife,
a sister,
and a grandfather.
I'm an office clerk.
I'm a research analyst,
dance fitness instructor,
actor.
I'm a copywriter.
I'm a veteran.
I have lupus,
cerebral palsy.
I'm blind.
And I'm working in a job I love.
I love.
Because I was given a chance
to contribute my skills and talents.
To show that my disability
is only one part of who I am.
Who I am.
Who I am.
At work, it's what people can do that matters.
For more information, visit whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
And welcome back. You're watching Small Business 21st Century, and today's segment of Build Your Difference. My name is Pierre Walters, and prior to the break, we were exploring several great questions related to my own personal entrepreneurial journey. I'm excited to answer more of these questions, so let's dive right in with the next question. How do you plan for your business future? That is a very good question. I'm so grateful for that question, because for a long time I didn't plan for my business future. I was too busy taking it day by day. I was too busy just, trying to survive, to be honest with you. And it wasn't until I would say, when I first started my business, we focused primarily on video production. And I spent so much of my time just focused on getting the next video gig. I didn't really think about what would happen if those video gigs stopped coming. I just kind of only focused on the next gig. And it wasn't until a mentor said to me, Pierre, what is it that you can do to be proactive about where your business goes rather than just receiving, accepting gigs as they come in? And that was the first time I really thought about it, and the first time I really realized, there's some agency that I have here that I'm not totally cultivating. And so I would say that since that time, I've started thinking, and have been, doing this religiously, is always trying to think 5 years down the line. What is it that I would like my business to look like 5 years down the line? And what are the steps I need to take right now in order to initiate that, or to make sure that I'm heading in that direction? So I'm always thinking 5 years down the line, and I'm always thinking, what can I do today to make that reality possible? Okay, very, very good question. What do you look for when building a team? Earlier we got a great question, which was, what is one of the most important or qualities of being an entrepreneur? And I said diligence. And when it comes to building a team, what is the thing that I look for most in other people? I would say diligence is part of that. But in addition to that, I would also say diligence and I want to say communication, really. Because, one thing about communication, being able to communicate, being able to do so in a way that's respectful, in a way that is timely, and in a way that is sort of appropriate for the context and the situation, is that communication enables you as a person and as a team member to take on tasks that you may not initially think you can handle. Because if you can communicate when you need help, if you can communicate when you don't quite understand something and seeking clarity, that's actually going to put you way ahead of so many other people. And so when I'm looking at potential team members, I am looking for people who can communicate, who can let me know, or let their manager know, or their producer know, whether or not they don't totally understand a particular part of a task, whether or not they need some training or assistance to help better learn or better accomplish a particular task. The point is, they're able to communicate when they need something or when something needs to be addressed. And that is so important, because they're not coming in with the mindset that they have to know everything all the time. They're coming in with the mindset of, I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to communicate when I need help or when I need to pass along information in a timely manner. And that, to me, is absolutely critical. So that, and also diligence, those two things together, to me, are what I look for in team members. What makes an effective leader? Excellent question. And I actually don't even think I'm qualified to answer that question. So I'm just going to take a stab at it. But hey, if you have your own thoughts and ideas, please feel free to write us and let me know what your experience says. Okay, so here's what I think. When it comes to being an effective leader, the thing that you gotta have, in my opinion, is resiliency. You gotta be a resilient person. You've got to be someone who can kind of roll with the punches, someone who's not afraid to roll their sleeves up and get in the trenches and do the work. There's a meme out there, or a trope, I don't know what the term is, but there's a saying out there that leadership is inspired, or the best leaders inspire others. They don't necessarily tell them, move over there, stand over there and do this, but they inspire others to want to elevate and do what they need to do to achieve whatever the task is at hand. And I think that may be the difference between like a leader and maybe a manager or something to that effect. But I think that what makes a leader effective is their ability to be resilient and their ability to stay cool, calm, and collected even against insurmountable odds. Because that is what inspires others, and that is what gives clarity to others as they look towards moving in the direction of success. What advice would you give to someone just starting a business? You know, if you're looking to begin your own entrepreneurial journey, the advice that I would give to you today is not to think about what you can do, okay, sort of just on your own in terms of providing a service, but to think about what it is that people need and whether or not you can provide a solution for that need. It may not necessarily be a solution that you can do yourself, but is it a solution that you can connect them to? Or is it a solution that you can bring to them? Because if you can think about entrepreneurship or business from that perspective of really bringing solutions to people, okay, as opposed to always being the sole provider of the solution or the service provider, you're bringing solutions to people, then that opens you up to a wealth of opportunity, because now your business can almost like arbitrage, where you are going out, finding useful things, sort of taking them, repackaging them, and putting them in front of the people that you know actually want or need those particular things. That is going to empower you to grow, I think, a larger business, a more successful business, and a business that doesn't end up being another job for you. We're in the business of creating jobs, not necessarily adding more jobs to our own plate. So let me rephrase that. We're in the business of creating jobs for others, not necessarily adding jobs to our own plate. And I think that's important to keep in mind. What has been your biggest aha moment? I think my biggest aha moment was in realizing that I could do things that I didn't think I could do. And for me, the transition came from first focusing on video production to then moving into publishing. I remember that moment, and I remember that opportunity of saying, wait a second, not only can we help people create media, but we can also help people publish their books. This was really early on. And at that time, a lot of my team members thought I was crazy. They're, what are you talking about? We're not publishers. And I thought, well, we're not publishers, but we can bring in the facilities and the team members who can help us become publishers. We can bring in editors. We can bring in designers, copy editors, format specialists, distribution specialists, distribution partners, quality control. We can bring these things in and package them and offer them to customers and serve a whole new segment of our audience in such a way that I did not think was initially possible. But you know what? It was possible, and it became a thriving part of our business. And so that was my aha moment. My aha moment was, wait a second. If I can make publishing work, then what other areas can we serve our audience? Maybe public relations, maybe website related services or hosting related. I mean, there's just so many other areas. I didn't think about it until I had that aha moment. And so what I would say is, when you're looking at your organization, don't necessarily limit yourself to specifically what you can do now, but think about, wait a second, what does my audience need? And if I'm resourceful enough, can I bring that to them? Because if the answer is yes, you're going to find that you're going to have a lot of aha moments along the way. And our final question, and this is a big one, is what do you consider non-negotiable in your business? And for me, what I consider non-negotiable is, this is going to sound silly, but doubt, believing that something's not possible. To me, that's a non-negotiable. I don't even want to entertain it. All I want to entertain is, how can we make this happen? I don't care if it's so impossible that the steps to make it happen are just so ridiculously insurmountable. I don't care. Just lay that out for me. I want to know the steps that it's going to take. Because to me, that is empowering. But doubt, just saying, oh, we can't do this, or I don't think we can do this, or whatever, to me, that is absolutely useless. And it's a non-negotiable. I don't want to hear it. I don't want it on the table. I don't want to waste time with it. So what I would say for you is, as you're going through your entrepreneurial journey, and as you're starting your own way through business, where you have doubt, just replace that with solutions. Even if they aren't solutions that you feel that you can immediately act on, or don't worry about it. Just write those solutions down and get them on paper, because you might find that they do become solutions that you can overcome or achieve sooner than you might expect. With that said, it's that time again. And I must say, I enjoyed these incredibly thoughtful questions, and I hope that my answers and experiences have been insightful for you on your journey. And if you have any questions about today's segment, please see the information scrolling below. Remember, you've been watching Small Business 21st Century and today's segment of Build Your Difference. Thanks for watching, and have a wonderful week.